Right. So, okay. You just look at this picture carefully. What does it indicate? There is a man, there is a wagon is there. By using a small pinch bar, a man is applying a force to a heavy wagon. So even you can move a heavy wagon without large force. That is what you can understand by this picture. This principle is called a leverage principle. If you remember that scientist Archimedes, he stated that if you give me a long leverage, I can move the earth also. So what we can interpret from this, to move large objects, we don't need enough force, we need only the leverage principle. Using small weight also, we can move the large objects. This is the basic behind the gears. For all the automobile gears we are using for power transmission, motion transmission, this is the basic principle behind it, called leverage principle. Right. So what you can interpret from this, you just see the unit, actually it is LBS, it is the unit of mass. Actually 1 lb is 453 grams. What he is trying, he is applying a leverage principle. He want to lift that 10 lps load using this lever and fulcrum principle, for which he is using only 5 lps. How it is possible? Torque. We just see the distance between the 5 lps load and the fulcrum. The distance is high. You see the distance between 10 lps load and the fulcrum. The distance is very less. But the product will be, force multiplied by the distance will be same. So using 5 lps itself, it is possible to lift the 10 lps load. This is what we can understand from this picture. Another example, all the pictures I am showing you to have interest on how the gears are manufactured, what is the research behind it. This is called the principle of gear development. Here, you are seeing two discs, right? One is the larger one of 4F capacity and another one small disc. And the two rods, horizontal rods you are seeing, they are called levers. At the right end, they are applying a very small force F. Because of this F, okay, that lever is lifting up. Since it is connected to the left side lever, it rotates the left side lever. Since the disc is also connected, the disc will be rotating. So for rotating this large diameter disc, even this small diameter disc is enough. We can create a continuous motion. This is what we can understand. Previously, I told the linear movement. Here I am talking about the rotary movement. If continuous motion is expected, more arms we can fix according to our requirements. Right. This picture talks a lot of histories. You just see this. There is a small wheel which is called driver, and there is a large wheel. Wheel means there is a rotor. So all of you know what is rotor, a shaft with blades, right? So if you see the picture carefully, the small one rotates CW, that is clockwise. If the smaller one rotates clockwise, how? We are giving some motor input power to the smaller one so that we are rotating the smaller one, that is called driver, clockwise. Because of this rotation clockwise, the left side wheel, which is large, never-ending series of levers due to rotation, they will move in the CCW, that is counterclockwise direction. Actually, what I am trying to say here is, you just see the left side picture, two blades are missing, correct? Only slots are there. So even if you give the power to the driver and making the driven to rotate, the driven shaft will not rotate continuously because there is missing of blades. So by inserting number of blades, by increasing the number of blades in the driven shaft, you can maximize the power transmission, or you can give continuous motion to the driven shaft. This is what I am trying to convey here. Right. This is how the gears, normally you have seen many gears, even if you open your watch, you can see a gear, correct? They are non-metallic gears, plastics. And gears manufactured of alloy steels or carbon steels based on the applications. Nowadays you are seeing gear profiles with involutes or cycloidal. But before that, how the gears are manufactured? Okay, there will be you see the picture. There will be of two wheels. They are connected stronger, but make less friction. Okay, by rounding off the edges. If you provide sharp edges, the friction will be more. How much finish you are making in the edges, less will be the friction. And shaping them into teeth. Okay, the gear is made up of number of tooth. Toothed wheel is called a gear. So it will slide in and out smoothly, right? Okay, so far I told you some history about the gears, how the gears are developed from the leverage principle. Next, I am moving to explain some of the gears. Most of you may have seen the gears in our lab or any other automobile shops or mechanical workshops. You may have seen these gears. Let us see the picture. Level gears. What is this level gears indicates? If the both gears are of equal size, same material, number of teeth, module, everything is same, we can give a name level gears. Both gears are of symmetrical, they are called level gears. Spur gear, can you remember this picture? Spur gear, lab we have the spur gear for measuring the tooth depth. Yes, spur gear means what? The teeth is straight, correct? Every teeth is straight, no inclination, and teeth is parallel. By looking at the picture, we can say it is easy to manufacture because all the teeth are straight, no need to worry about the helix angle and all those things. It is easy to manufacture. Spur gear, it is not used for axial force transmission. Okay, it is used to connect parallel shafts. Next comes helical gears. They have the, you just see the teeth, now it is inclined. That is called inclined to the gear axis. Compared with the spur gear, the helical gears give more strength, less noise, right? Like our refrigerator, we are using compressors. Rice mill also we are using compressor. But rice mill we hear more noise, but refrigerator we hear less noise. Why? Because rice mill we are using reciprocating, and here we are using rotary compressor. Same concept. Compared to the spur gear, straight teeth, if you make some inclination in the teeth, noise will be reduced. If you are buying a car or if you are driving a bike, you don't want more noise. It is customer satisfaction, right? So from customer point of view, we have to think for the helical gears or any other herringbone gears rather than spur gears. Okay, what is this bevel gear? Normally the bevel gears are used to connect shafts whose axes are intersecting. To connect parallel shafts, spur gear, inclined, helical, axes are intersecting at any angles, we have to go for bevel gears. Bevel gears, there are two types. They may be straight bevel gears, or we can make some spiral arrangements in that. Printing press, you can see, you can observe this bevel gears for power transmission, as well as a lot of machine tool structures, they are using the bevel gears. Okay, what is one advantage of this bevel gear is we can go up to speed 5. What is this 1:5? You just remember the previous diagram, driver one small wheel and driven one bigger wheel. Small wheel, if it rotated, say for example 1 RPM, the bigger wheel we can rotate at 5 RPM. This is the meaning of this. Gear ratio up to 1:5 means what? From 1 RPM or from 100 RPM to, we can move to up to 500 RPM. That is called gear ratio, gear train ratio. Next, worm gears. Okay, bevel gears are intersecting. Worm gears are used for connecting two shafts. They are not intersecting and non-parallel. For non-parallel, non-intersecting shaft also you can transmit power with the help of worm gears. The primary benefit of this worm gear is their ability to provide high reduction ratio. High reduction ratio means previous case bevel gear I told reduction ratio is how much? 1:5. But warm gear we can go more than 5. Okay, we can go up to 10:1. And correspondingly high torque multiplication can be possible here. So they can be used as speed reducers. In our buses and lorries or car we are using gearboxes. Okay, do you know how many gearboxes are there in buses? The answer is not one. You can see the nearby the driver one box is there, that is called a gearbox, only one gearbox. Why Sir is asking this question? Actually there are 2 gearboxes. What is the one more gearbox? Which is at the rear axial, that is called differential. Differential is also a gearbox, right? So this is looking like a flywheel. You are seeing the flywheel in IC engines to store the energy. You cannot assume that the gear, you should not have the imagination that a gear means I can hold in a hand, spur gear or helical gear. In laboratory I touched the gear, I can hold in the hand, it is some 1 kg or half kg. Not like that. Even the big gears are also for industrial purposes to transmit large amount of power. We can maximize the size of the pitch circle diameter of the gear. We can go up to any numbers. They are called the big gears. Right. Warm gears, already I given the picture. This is another example. It is like a rack and pinion. You just see the bottom picture. It consists of one straight rod and one rounded portion. That rounded portion, which is shown in yellow color, golden color, that is called warm wheel, and the top rod is called warm and warm wheel. It is looking like a rack and pinion arrangements. Rack means it has linear movements. That pinion will have rotary movement. So using this, you can convert rotary movement into linear movement also. Rotary movement we can convert into linear movement, like IC engines we are doing with the piston and the connecting rod, same concept. This is another pictorial view representing the bevel gear for intersecting shafts. Okay, right. Now I want to, before going to the measurement topic, I want to explain the gear with the help of the differential in automobile. Just now I told all the automobile vehicles are having 2 gearboxes. One is at the front and another one is at the rear axial, that is called differential. Have you seen the bullet cart? Right? How the bullet, how they are taking the turn. There is no differential there. If you want to take left turn or if they want to take a right turn, same concept is applied in automobile. That is the basic research behind this differential. Here 5%, for example, 5 persons are riding the bike. If you see the outer bike, that person has to move fast while taking a turn, correct? Whereas the innermost person, if you see this, he has, with less speed, he can take the turn. Why? Because the torque remains the same. Angular velocity remains the same. We know that velocity or speed of the bike is equal to W into R, where W is what? Angular velocity. R is radius of curvature. If you want to take left turn, the right side person has to move for more radius, correct? If you are not doing like this, definitely skidding will happen. This is the pictorial representation of the differential, which is placed in the rear wheel axial in any automobile car. Differential connected with the rear wheel. So that middle you can see one round sphere, that is called the differential. Okay, that is joining the rear wheels, and there will be a propeller shaft. In next pictures I will explain what is this propeller shaft and all those things. This differential will contain set of gears, warm and warm gears, to transmit the power from the rear axial to the front axials. Nowadays all the vehicles, no front axial vehicles are there. So from rear axial they are transmitting the power to the front axial through the propeller shaft, for which the differential is used. Right. Just look at this picture. There are 2 wheels, left side one wheel and right side one wheel. The 2 wheels are connected with the axial individually, and one vertical support is there. Left side it is called a frame for wheel 1, and right side it is called frame for wheel 2. and one person is under that two rods which with the arrow, yellow color arrow mark, they are called spokes, like your cycle or motorcycle, you can imagine spokes, right? One person holding one rod, that is called crossbar. For example, what he is doing, he is ensuring rotation for both wheels on rotation. Suppose if we keep the rod horizontal, for example, in spoke 1 and spoke 2, is ensuring that both the wheels are having same speed. That is he want to explain. That means you are riding the vehicle in a straight road. Now you just see the difference between the previous picture and this picture. This picture, what he is doing, he is holding the left side wheel. That means what? He is applying brake. Okay, one hand he is holding the left one wheel, that means one wheel he stopped completely, and which is connected with the axial one. Okay, and axial 2, wheel 2 is free to rotate, and he is adjusting the lever due to rotation of setup. What he is doing, it drives wheel 2 only, but wheel 1 is not moving. Okay, this is happen while you are taking a left turn. While you are taking a left turn, this principle is you can observe in the cars. While taking a right turn, the reverse phenomenon, the brake will be applied in the right side wheel. Okay, the reverse. Before the gears are manufactured, initial research was started like this. Okay, to avoid jerky action while riding, you should not feel any jerky action. More spokes are added. Looks like gear, correct? In cycles and motorcycles, we have more spokes. Why these spokes are provided? They are not for simply they are not designed. They are for to minimize the jerky action. Okay, right. After this, they made some curvature. Okay, in the blades, they made some curvature. You see the previous one and this one. The tooth has some curved portions. Okay, some profiles. Here, gears, normally we have two profiles. One is the invalid profile, another one is the cycloidal profiles. Okay, they made some little advancement. They tried with this type of gears compared with the previous one. Okay, right. Now, this is the principle behind the differential actual gears. Now, gears are made secure and strong. Edges are cut for smooth and silent movement. Normally, if any surface, if you make a rough, noise will be there. Okay, so the edges should be, any object, the edges should be rounded off to at least a minimum radius in order to have smooth and silent operation. Suppose if I am riding a car, I should not feel any noise. Okay, that is my main aim. So that is why, for customer point of view, okay, nowadays the manufacturers, they have to satisfy customer satisfaction is a prime. That is a quality they are using, quality, right? So edges should be cut for smooth and silent operation. Okay, and another diagram, you see this. There is, yes, C-like clamp. The top one is called the outside setup. Outside setup is moving, but inside axial is not moving here while taking a turn. Okay, suppose if another gear is added just opposite to share the driving work, we can do like this. Here the lower portion is fixed, right? The lower C clamp, the lower portion is fixed, so that is not rotating, only the upper one is rotating, right? What we can observe from this, there is a small wheel is there. You just see the arrow mark at the bottom. There is a small wheel. That small wheel is connected to the power source, right? Using the small wheel, we are running the large wheel, which what I have shown in the previous slides as a leverage principle. Now the power is connected to the center line of differential axis 2. Okay, using a smaller wheel, and you can run the bigger wheels. Okay, one problem with the previous slide is, if you make the straight arrangements, rack and pinion, that is warm and warm wheel, will have straight arrangements, some noise problem will be there. Instead of that, you see this diagram, they made some inclination, correct? That is small rod extends on the right hand side. You see that is called drive shaft, driver shaft. This drive shaft is lowered. You can observe some inclination, right? It is not exactly horizontal. It is with some inclining downwards. This drive shaft is lowered to contact the differential safe and reliable. By doing so, we can ensure that stronger, safer, and smoother operation of the automobile parts. Okay, so presently this is the design actually used in the cars, but theoretically in literatures we are seeing the previous picture, but practically if you see this, they are making some small inclinations of the rack so that the noiseless operations will be assured. Okay, most of you have seen this type of pictures to explain the automobile engineering, that a differential unit, that green color shaft which extrudes towards you, that is called propeller shaft. The purpose of the propeller shaft, okay, in lorries and buses, if you see down, you can see this propeller shaft. There is a long shaft which is connecting the rear axial and front axial. The purpose of the propeller shaft is to transmit the power from the rear axial to the front axial. That is the purpose of propeller shaft. Normally for front axial drive, no propeller shaft is there. Previously Maruti introduced like that. Now they also removed this. Presently they are using the propeller shafts. Okay, and the pinion means it is a small gear. Okay, and you can see the yellow color one, that is called the ground wheel, and that blue line that indicates the large wheel. Okay, using the small wheel we can rotate the large wheel to any speed of rotation. Smooth operation can be ensured. Right. So far, I was supporting my lecture for how the gears are manufactured. What is the history behind it? Okay, simply we are using, like other persons, though we are mechanical engineers, we must know how the gears, what is the history behind it. Next, let us see what are the technical terms associated with this. Okay. You can see this, in this picture, you can see some 2-3 wheels. Actually, a gear is an important power transmission element. Its calculations depend on certain factors. Some basic terminologies of these factors are discussed in this presentation. Okay, this is a pictorial view. Okay, actually in this picture, I'm showing 2 tooth. Okay, first one and second one. You can observe the vertical distance, addendum and below one dedendum. Addendum means it is the height from the top of the tooth to the pitch circle. And similarly, dedendum is the pitch circle to the root. Okay, so I will explain one by one in the next slides. Right. What is this pitch circle? Actually, it is an imaginary circle. Like a screw thread, I told you, we are not drawing any circle. It is an imaginary circle which by pure rolling action will give the same movement of the actual gear. Okay. If 2 gears are matting, okay, so the innermost circles you can observe one long line followed by one dot. That is called the pitch circle. What is this PCD? Pitch circle diameter. It is the diameter of the pitch circle. If any gear, if you want to specify the gear, you have to specify only the pitch circle. Apart from this, we have the base circle. Okay, normally the gear is not described in terms of the base circle or nominal diameter. The gear should be, specification of the gear should be in terms of PCD, pitch circle. Okay, it is also called the pitch diameter. What is this base circle? You just see there are set of tooths are there. One line is passing through the bottommost point. You just see this. One circle is passing through the bottommost points of the tooth. That imaginary line is called base diameter. Okay, this is for understanding, but I told you any gear is not specified by base diameter, rather than it is specified by what? PCD, pitch circle diameter. Okay, if you see, there will be of 3 imaginary lines here. That middle one is called the PCD, pitch circle diameter. Okay, next, what is this pitch point? Suppose gear you are not using individually. In metrology lab, you are measuring the tooth thickness and all those things. That's why you are taking the gear and you are checking the parameters. But in a real field, two gears will be used simultaneously, correct? So you can observe here, two gears are mating, okay? By which we can understand this pitch point as it is a common point of contact between two pitch circles. If two gears are mating each other, what is the common point of contact at PCD, pitch circle diameter? That is called what? Pitch circle diameter. Sorry, pitch point. Next, addendum. I explained in the first slide what is addendum. It is the radial distance. Okay, radial distance of your tooth from the pitch circle to the top of the tooth. Okay, you can observe this diagram here also. Top of the tooth to PCD is called addendum. Similarly, the PCD to the bottom of the tooth is called what? Dedendum. Okay, addendum and dedendum. Next comes circular pitch. Screw threads, I told you know what is pitch. It is the distance between consecutive threads. Okay, same way it is here. Circular pitch means it is the distance between two tooth, but the distance should be measured where? Pitch circle diameter. Okay, not base circle. So this is the distance measured on the circumference of pitch circle from a point of one tooth to the corresponding point on the next tooth. Okay, actually it is represented as P suffix C. Okay, we just see this formula. I will give you the definition. That is a module by number of teeth. I will explain in the next slides. The next one is the diametral pitch. Previous one I told is pitch circle. Okay, this is diametral pitch. What is this diametral pitch? It is the ratio of number of teeth to the pitch circle diameter in millimeter. Okay, it is represented as P suffix D, number of teeth to pitch circle diameter. Next, module. If you have any gear, definitely the first question they will ask, what is the module of the gear? Lathe shops, you may be manufacturing some gears, right? So one of this important specification is module. So module means what is the pitch circle diameter of your gear which you manufacture divided by the number of teeth. You will have some answer. Okay, that is called the module. So it is the ratio of pitch circle diameter in millimeters to the number of teeth. Normally it is represented as small m and the unit is millimeter. Next, clearance. Okay, actually if two gears are mating each other, clearance is the radial distance. It is the radial distance from the top of the tooth to the bottom of the tooth in a meshing gear. You can observe it with these arrow marks. What is this clearance? When two gears are meshed together, there will be a small portion left, top of one tooth and the another tooth, bottom of another tooth. That space is called what? Clearance. If you look at this picture, you can observe this arrow marks which is moving top towards top. You can find that white color, no small gap. That gap is called clearance. Next, what is this total depth? In any gear, total depth stands for radial distance between, or simply you can take it is addendum plus dedendum. I told what is addendum? From the top of the tooth to the pitch circle diameter. What is dedendum? Pitch circle diameter to the root of the tooth. The total addendum plus dedendum is called what? Total depth of the tooth. Next, working depth. What is this working depth? Actually, it is the radial distance from the addendum circle to the clearance circle. Just now we seen what is clearance, the gap in the mating gears. Okay, it is also equal to sum of addendum of two meshing gears. But it is not same for all the gears. Maybe true for spur gear. For different gears, based on the helix angle, there will be a slight changes in this correlation. Next, you have to understand why I am taking all these very basic fundamentals. These are all the things we are going to measure in the next slides. We will be observing these things to be measured. Okay, tooth space, okay, tooth thickness, all those things we are going to measure. Okay, that's why we are studying all these parameters. Okay, right, tooth space. Okay, what is this tooth space and the tooth thickness? Okay, tooth space, it is the width of the tooth measured along the pitch circle, and the tooth thickness, it is the width of the space between the two adjacent teeth measured along the pitch circle. Okay, next backlash. This is one of the error. It is the difference between the tooth space and the tooth thickness. But it is on the pitch circle, not on the base circle. The difference between the tooth space and the tooth thickness measured on the pitch circle is called the backlash. Next, face of the tooth. It is the surface of the tooth above the pitch surface. And top land means it is the surface of the top of the tooth. Flank means it is the surface of the tooth below the pitch surface. Face width, it is the width of the gear tooth measured parallel to its axis. Okay, this already we have seen the definitions. Okay, this is another picture you have seen in different form, that is addendum, dedendum, pitch circle diameter, base circle. You can observe the clearance. Two gears are here, the bottom and the one more gear is there. Both there will be a small clearance. Okay. Working depth, what is this face width? Look at this top land, top surface of the tooth, bottom land, the bottommost point, the inclined surface is called the flank. And what is this circular thickness? Okay, tooth thickness. These things will be used for measurements. Okay, so what are the various errors that we can find while taking the measurements? Okay, the first one, gear error, no, profile error. Actually, it is the maximum distance of any point on the tooth profile from to the form to the design profile. Or pitch error, maybe the difference between the actual and the design pitch. Or cyclic error, this may be due to revolution of gear. Okay, or the error may be in the form of runout. What is this runout means? It is the range of reading of a fixed indicator with the contact points applied to the surface rotated. Okay, without axial moment. Eccentricity, sometimes off the radial runout, that is called eccentricity, that is offset. Next, wobble, if the runout is measured parallel to the axis of rotation, it is called wobble. If it is measured perpendicular to the axis of rotation, that is called radial runout. Okay. Next, undulation means it is the periodical departure of the actual tooth surface from the design surface. Okay, let us come to the heart of our today's discussion. So far I have told how the gears are manufactured and what is the history behind this. Now let us take, okay, so according to the main syllabus, how the tooth thickness, if you take any gear, how the tooth thickness can be measured perfectly. You cannot use your scale, or you cannot use your simply one vernier caliper and we cannot measure. That is not the correct method, because the tooth are curved profiles. Exactly telling, they are involute profiles or cycloidal profiles. So some methods, some empirical methods are available, that is experimental methods. One is gear tooth vernier caliper, we can use it. Okay, that is called constant chord method. Chord is the tooth distance. Or we can go for the base tangent method, measurement of over pins or balls, that is another method. We will see one by one. The first one is the gear tooth vernier method. The aim of this experiment is to measure the thickness, tooth thickness at the PCD, okay, pitch line. Gear tooth thickness normally varies from the tip of the base circle, correct? If you look at the base, that is bottommost point, the tooth will be more width. When it is towards the top, it is converging. Any gear tooth, correct? So the gear tooth thickness varies from the tip of the base circle of the tooth, and the instrument is capable of measuring the thickness at a specified position on the tooth. Okay, so the tooth vernier caliper, normally it consists of two parts. One is the vernier scale, and another one, it has two perpendicular arms. Okay, in this two perpendicular arms, one arm is used to measure the thickness and the other arm is used to measure the depth. Actually, in lab, we are using the horizontal vernier scale reading for chordal thickness, which is represented as W, and vertical vernier scale we are using for measuring the addendum, the distance between the top of the tooth to the pitch circle. Okay, and then we are comparing the two values. This is the objective of this experiment. The theoretical values of this caudal thickness and the addendum can be found out by considering one tooth in the gear, and it can be verified. Okay, so the next slide we are going to see some pictures by which we can understand how the caudal thickness is measured by using the gear tooth vernier caliper. Right, you just see here I have taken only one tooth for example. The width of the tooth on one side it is AB. Okay, and the caudal thickness to be measured, which is shown on the top as C, and you can see the pitch circle diameter, and there is an angle. Okay, that is called the flank angle pi, right? If W is the caudal thickness and D, just previous slides I told you, it is called addendum. So our aim is we have to measure the W. Okay, that is AB. So look at this picture. AB is nothing but it is a double of AD. If you see the triangle AOD, okay, what is this theta? It is 360 by 4n. What is n here? Number of teeth. So W from the second line, W is nothing but 2AD. So 2 times what is AD? If you look at the triangle AOD, AD is what? AO sin theta, because sin theta is AD by AO. Okay, so therefore the W will become what? 2R sin theta is what? 360 by 4n, where R stands for pitch circle radius. What is module? Definitions I told you, module means nothing but pitch circle diameter by number of teeth. You know that diameter is 2 times the radius. So PCD is nothing but 2R, number of teeth is n. So from this m equal to 2R by n, we can write R, pitch circle radius equal to nm by 2. This R value we are going to substitute in the previous line to get a W, right? And what is this OD? What is this OD? OD is the top, bottommost point on the axis line, OD, right? So OD is what? R cos theta, because cos theta equals to OD by R. So what is R? Already we have n module times nm by 2, right? So OD will become nm by 2 multiplied by the cosine angle of 90 by n. So this is the exact method which is followed in the gear tooth vernier caliper for the measurement of tooth thickness. This is one of the effective method, constant chord method. It is also called as gear tooth vernier method is also called as constant chord method. Right. The second method is called the base tangent method. Okay. What is this base tangent method? Explain. Here the base tangent length consists of, actually it is one base circle thickness and a number of base pitches. Okay. Base tangent length is nothing but what? One base circle thickness plus number of base pitches. Actually theoretically if we say base pitch is pi m. Pi m means circular pitch. Pi into m means module here into cos pi. Pi is the pressure angle. Normally standard pressure angles for gears are 14.5 degrees and 20 degrees. Okay. If S is the number of tooth spaces contained in the base tangent length being measured, then number of base pitches will be equal to S times pi m, that is circular pitch into cosine angle of pi, that is pressure angle. Okay. So base tangent length, what we are going to measure using this next picture in gears is arc GH and arc HI. We